Great. Thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here. I'm so happy to see the interest in this topic. Also happy to see several of my current students here. I want to share with you some new research that I'm doing on ESG investing. So investing that takes into account not just climate change, but also other environmental issues, that whole laundry list that Professor Orts put up. And we're going to try to make some progress here on what we consider a very basic, fundamental question about ESG investing, namely, how much of it is there? Interestingly, despite the huge interest in ESG, we don't have a very good answer to this question of how much ESG investing is there. The typical approach to answering this how much question involves summing up the dollars, so the assets under management, of investing institutions that endorse ESG. So when you take that approach, here's some examples of the numbers that you find. The amount of ESG investing ranges from $121 trillion at the high end to $17 trillion on the low end. You're getting some pretty big numbers. I want to zoom in on this first bullet point, the UNPRI approach. So UNPRI stands for the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investing. What we've done here is we've summed up the assets of institutions that sign these principles of responsible investing, and we've expressed that sum as a fraction of the size of the overall investment industry. When you do that, you find numbers that are big and getting bigger. So by the end of our sample period, it suggests that 80% of the assets in the investment industry are ESG assets. By that metric, there's a ton of ESG. There's a problem, though. There's a problem with this approach. It has limitations. The first is that it gives a number. Let's see if I can get rid of this thing. The first problem is it can give you a number that's too high. The reason is that not all PRI signatories' investments are ESG related, right? This relates to the problem of greenwashing. An institution may say they care about ESG, but not actually change their portfolio much in response. But then you've got the opposing problem. It could give you a number that's too low because there are non-signatories that also have ESG-related investments. An example, there might be a hedge fund out there that doesn't care at all about ESG, but it's tilted toward green stocks simply because it thinks these green stocks are underpriced. Or it might be tilting toward green stocks because they're trying to hedge climate-related risks. So we're going to try a different approach. Our approach involves estimating what we call ESG-related portfolio tilts. Here's a super simple example to give you the idea. Imagine there are only 2 stocks in the world, and we find an institution that weights those stocks 70-30. Well, suppose we could figure out this institution would weight them 60-40 if the 2 stocks had exactly the same ESG profile. So what's happening is it looks like these stocks' different ESG characteristics are changing the institution weights from 60-40 to 70-30. So in this simple example, we would say this institution's ESG-related portfolio tilt is 10%. Went from 70 to 60, for example. So skipping a lot of details, a lot of hard work, what we've done is we've estimated these ESG portfolio tilts for around 3,000 institutions. These institutions include hedge funds, they include pension funds, endowments. We've even done this for the portfolio held by the Mormon Church, all right? We do this by getting data on what stocks they actually hold and on stocks' ESG and other characteristics. We then take every institution's tilt and we aggregate it up to the level of the investment industry. And here's what we find. Here's our answer to the question, how much ESG-related investing is there? It's the bottom line. So it's pretty flat over time. By the end of the sample, the number is 6%. That tells us that 6% of the investment industry's assets have an ESG-related tilt. And it's kind of striking, right? It's more than a factor of 10 smaller than what you would get if you took the standard approach of just looking at who signed the UNPRI. So who cares? Like, why should you care about this? Well, the big question we wish we could answer is, to what extent can ESG investing help solve the climate crisis, right? To what extent can ESG investing solve the world's big problems? I wish I could answer that question. We don't. But surely, if you want to answer that big question, a first step is to understand, first of all, how much ESG investing is there, and that's what we try to do. So thanks.